All right. Hey, good morning, folks. Welcome to runningrestaurants.com podcast, where we bring you the tips, tools, and techniques you need to make your restaurant more profitable and successful. I'm your host, Jamie Oikel. And today I got a great episode for you with Christine Schindler, co-founder and CEO of PathSpot. So a little bit more about PathSpot, and then we'll dig in. PathSpot is a leading health and safety operating system for smart restaurants. The company's flagship product, the PathSpot hand scanner, is the world's first real-time hand hygiene management system, protecting food service operators and their patrons against the threat of illness and outbreaks. So good stuff there. Christine was recently recognized as a rising star in Hospitality Technologies Magazine's 2023 Top Women in Restaurant Technology Awards. So really, really cool stuff. Welcome, Christine. Tell me more about how you got started with PathSpot, what you folks are up to. What do you got?
Absolutely. Well, my background actually isn't in the restaurant industry originally. I started as a biomedical engineer, and I started my career on the research side of that world. I did research in the developing world, mostly in the Kilimanjaro region, and I was focused on how to build low-cost medical tools and technologies for obviously resource constricted settings there. I spent time then working domestically in our hospital networks and systems. And I think that mentality shift and the process of building low cost, tools for these areas, it made me start to think about the public health issues and discrepancies we face here domestically that could also benefit from low cost, but accessible medical tools and technologies that could solve these major public health issues facing our world today. And this was a few years back now, but there was the news all the time, people getting incredibly sick, hospitalizations, even deaths, right? From these harmful foodborne illness outbreaks that were costing brands billions of dollars. And I started to wonder, why is this happening? What's actually causing this, right? It's cereal, it's lettuce, all these things. But as we well know, like cereal doesn't spawn illness. So what was creating these issues and these components? And it turns out that maybe post 2020, we're not as surprised by this. The predominant cause of this, around 90% was directly related to hand hygiene and poor hand washing quality or frequency. And I wondered, why the best practice solution were these signs that say we must wash our hands before returning to work. It felt like with the impact that this was having on, bottom lines and individuals' health and safety, there had to be a better solution. And then that's kind of what spurred my excitement and enthusiasm for the restaurant industry and how to create real value in health and safety that also impacts real financial gains.
Yeah. It's one of those things that we take for granted, right? We have young kids and kids middle age too, but wash your hands. And how do kids get sick, right? They bring stuff home and they touch their face, and it's the same in restaurants. But the cost is so much greater than missing a day of school. It's that outbreak that costs your brand. You threw out the big number, billions. I mean, it can literally cost you your business as a restaurant operator or your public credibility. So it's a big deal. We talked for a second before you got on. You're at a conference right now. You're traveling, speaking about it. What are some of the trends that people are talking about food safety right now? What are you talking about tomorrow in your session?
Yeah, I'm grateful to be at the Global Food Safety Initiative right now. I think there is a real emphasis around this right now. In a post COVID world and society, consumers, employees, and brands are really looking for how do we create this visualization and tools around safety. We recognize the critical importance, and employees on a day-to-day basis are feeling the critical importance. This is a real distinguishing factor on how someone may choose where to work because they want to feel safe. And generally, the public as a whole is so educated on the transmission of illness, the vectors of these, how it happens. One thing that we've all been talking a lot about is there's been such a push in the last few years for a digitization effort around the front of house, whether that was online ordering tools or different capabilities for drive-throughs, everything with the consumer interacting in restaurants being a huge push. I think the big push right now is digitization of the back of house, digitization of health, safety, hygiene, these protocols and practices that right now are not technology driven at all. There are so many opportunities to be able to create sensor-based, data-driven insights and requirements around things that didn't used to have any tools behind that. And so our huge focus right now is how can we cover that for the entire back of house for restaurant ecosystem? Right. These giant log books that restaurants have to fill out with all their health and safety information, that's neither effective nor impactful when being able to identify future trends.
Yeah, it's not. And I think about when you said sensors, the first thing that popped into my mind is how smart the cars are getting these days, and things that we are all just loving. How easier thing is AI is hitting us in a lot of different areas, and perhaps we'll get into that. But let's talk about your technology. How does it work? Like, what is happening? What are you doing? What are the insights that the restaurant can gain from what your product does? Tell us.
Absolutely. Yeah, PathSpot is a back of house safety operating system. So we cover everything that's required from a safety, hygiene, health practice for restaurants, as well as food packaging facilities, cafeterias, anywhere where food is handled, stored, or served. And the way that we do that is through a network of different hardware, software components that are able to bring this to the forefront of the day-to-day. And the first product of that is hand washing. So we actually have a device that scans employees' hands in real time to identify if they have any invisible contamination that could make someone sick behind E. coli, salmonella, neurovirus, hepatitis A, listeria, all those things we've been seeing on the news that we don't want to have happen. And then also to track, incentivize, reward, and encourage frequency of hand washing. Every restaurant has these goals, SOPs. You need to wash your hands once an hour, or once every 30 minutes, or every time you do these tasks. But what's the incentivization? What's the monitoring of that look like? We actually build that into our system and use it as a hand hygiene hub to be able to encourage and identify that in real time, as well as create really comprehensive trainings to inform against risk at a broader level. So corporate organizations can see who's washing and when and how effectively, and how it ties back. And then, we recently expanded. What does it look like in other areas of the restaurant that are also so critical? The brands we work with were coming to me and saying, you've digitized something for us, Christine, that was totally we had nothing. We were just guessing. Do people wash their hands? Hopefully the manager checked, right? Now we have this whole path. Can you do this for these other areas? So in our safety suite expansion, we now have temperature monitoring that is showcasing any refrigerators or freezer that are out of temperature range that might cause food spoilage. We do waste management, labeling to make sure food is all at the right temperature and different components. We do tasks and audit components. We do employee health and compliance. How are they upholding their own personal health and safety, and how that impacts the day-to-day in a restaurant environment? And so by really customizing this to whatever SOPs are most necessary for the groups we work with, we're able to really build a comprehensive health solution that's all digitally backed.
Yeah, well, there's a lot there. Let me go back to the hand scanning part. You talked about it. Is it 2 seconds, 5 seconds? What happens? What does it look like? How are they incentivized? It's tracking. Is it tracking? Hey, Jamie did this at this time. What else does it look like?
Yeah, so it mounts on the wall right next to every hand washing sink. And right after you wash your hands, you just put your hands underneath, flip them over, and it instantly pops up on the screen. Either green, you're all good, you can go back to work, or red, hey, no problem. This happens to everyone, but you need to rewash and rescan your hands. We identified one of these core contaminants. So that's what it looks like in a base case. But essentially, because we have those SOPs put in there, it's also reminding everyone, we try to make it fun. It's something that we encourage and, can build into a positive part of your day, whether that's a Fitbit style tracking element of, did you hit your hand washes this hour, that the manager can use to encourage around that front, or a trivia game. You get a question, and while you wash your hands, if you scan correctly at the end, you get the answer to the trivia question or training platform. Or you can also read and go through your safety stats on temperature or on labeling or on different pieces in real time while you wash your hands. So it's bringing to the forefront all these safety components together, similar to how a POS system is a hub for so many of the operational tasks you need to complete. We want to use the hand wash as that gateway into all those different pieces. And we can do it individually or at a shift level. It really just depends on the preference of the restaurant we're working with.
Okay, cool. Talk about how long you guys have been in the market, where you are geographically, and it could be nationwide, worldwide. Is there a certain segment because we're in the restaurant space, a certain segment of the restaurant space that you're doing more or trying to target, or just kind of talk about that aspect of it?
Yeah, absolutely. We're grateful to work with brands across the entire world, especially with
Yeah.
expansion of global brands that we originally worked with here domestically in the US.
Yep.
And we honestly touch all different types of restaurants, whether it's, QSR chains or sit down, fine dining establishments, restaurants inside of hotels, restaurants inside of grocery stores,
Sure.
restaurants inside of airports, cafeterias, office spaces or universities. We really cover this core component because these requirements around hygiene and safety are really holistic to all of these different operations and areas. We definitely see that most of our clients fall in the chain based establishment.
Sure.
Typically, 50 locations or more, and sometimes thousands of locations or more, as there's such critical risk and components around being able to identify this in real time and build that through corporate food safety teams that we're grateful to work with. But at the same time, we definitely have many, one-off locations that just want to ensure that they're protecting their staff, protecting their team members, and protecting the people who come into their establishments. So it's a pretty robust platform from that standpoint.
You talked before we got on about having a Dallas or Texas or Dallas location, New York location, traveling a lot. How have you guys grown over the year? I assume it sounds like you're expanding like crazy. What does the company growth look like?
Yeah, it's been a really exciting last few years as we've tripled our company size, added a second office for all of our full-time in-person team members, and been able to really engage with our clients in a personal level. We're on the road a lot because this is a physical component that we want to be able to showcase and share and work with the teams to be able to really establish and ensure that it works across the board, and also to share with others, being able to speak about this at conferences and events and share what we're doing with the restaurant industry. It's been so rewarding to have these brands sometimes look at me and say, I didn't know this existed, but it's exactly what we needed.
Right.
That really speaks to the original clients we had who we built this product around, and the scalability of a solution like that. So we're definitely scaling our team as we scale our base and move into new regions and new areas.
Yeah, talk about a good picture of where you are, where the future is going in safety technology, the stuff that you're doing. I obviously not gonna jump ahead to Star Trek where there's one little device that scans you and tells you what's wrong and fixes you 1 second later. But what do things look like in the future?
I think the data collection element of this is really exciting.
Hmm.
When we have all of this different components and data across how the safety ecosystem is working, we can draw and identify really impactful trends. For example, based on the patterns of contamination on someone's hand, we may know that, hey, tongs are really a big issue in your restaurant location for passing illness. What are your SOPs like around tongs? Okay, great. Let's update the number of times we need to wash tongs, and let's build that into the task tracking app over here. And then let's see if ensuring that that's a part of the audit process, it builds to a reduction in illness and a reduction of contaminants from that. Being able to create this holistic process, it's really exciting. Similarly, many of the restaurants we partner with, we utilize this in their manufacturing or food processing or commissary locations as well. So being able to pass data between those organizations and see where these risk factors are, identify them before anything actually ends up happening. I think that's the most exciting thing about preventative healthcare and prevention. Sure, you may never know, how many illnesses were stopped from something like this, but being able to get ahead of it and not have it be something that's reactive and scrambling and super panicked and has a huge impact on bottom line and employee safety. That's where I think these data-driven insights are leading us.
Yeah, that's really interesting though. The get ahead of it part, seeing the trends, and you can do that with data rather than guessing. A lot of times we used to guess before. Oh, Sarah passed it to Jimmy, and that's all. That's all maybe we knew, right? And we just guessed where it came from. Question: I want to go back. I want to go back to temperature stuff and labeling stuff for a quick second. That's my biggest fear, right? And my wife's more so than I. The food's been in for so many days, and it has this date on it, and which date did you open it, and it's been left there, and what temperature did it stay at? It's a really big deal with food quality products. What are some of the ways that stuff is managed?
Yeah, prior to technology-driven results around this, it was super, super manual. And that's really stressful for individuals in a restaurant environment that are also responsible for so many different things.
Yeah.
One of the things we've been most excited about that is a real ROI point for the groups that we work with is being able to redirect labor resources from literally going around with a clipboard and writing down the temperature at every single refrigerator unit 3 times a day to make sure that that's holistic, to being able to give them that time back so they can spend it on culinary, they can spend it on guest experience, they can spend it on building relationships with their coworkers. It's not time just wasted by taking a temperature that can be done digitally, uploaded instantly, all logs automatically filled out, and then identified in real time more frequently. We're taking temperature once every 15 minutes. Anytime something's out of range for longer than an acceptable period, being able to get ahead of that and also reduce the risk of food spoilage. We identify those risk factors in real time. If ice cream melts, it's melted, it's gone. You can't refreeze that. So that's a huge value and savings point, as well as security for the groups themselves. When people are really, really busy, it's hard. Anyone who's worked in a restaurant knows how challenging it is to keep up with all the tasks that are required. And so it can be challenging for them to even complete the safety standards on a day-to-day, not because they don't want to, but just because there's not capacity. And so being able to automate that digitally is a huge time saver and impact for the groups.
Yeah, it's one of the words that I wrote down in big thing. Even before you said it, I said people are busy. They're busy in the restaurant industry. And just to do this sort of stuff. So it takes that away. And I also thought about a scenario where, maybe the refrigerator goes down for 6 hours. You don't notice it, but maybe it even comes back on, or the power went out and things like that. If you're not notified, it spoils. But yet by the time you measure it again, it looks fine. So there's a lot of dangers there if you're not constantly monitoring that stuff. So, all right, so tell folks where to go to learn more about you guys. Is there anything you did, closing points, wrapping points, anything else you'd like to say that we didn't maybe get to? The floor is yours.
This was so wonderful. Thanks for hearing a little bit about our story and what we're working towards. I think the biggest piece for us is we really want this to be something that is easy to implement, easy to use, and only saves time, money, and resources while also, impacting these really critical control issues. So it's super customizable, and we love getting to work with different organizations and understanding what their pain points are and how we can make this really seamless. But yeah, if anyone listening to this is interested in learning more, PathSpot.com is our website, and you can access any information, set up time with our team there. We'd love to share more about what we're working on.
Perfect. Yeah, it's been great. Appreciate it. Folks, as Christine Schindler of PathSpot, you can find them on the web at PathSpot.com. For more great restaurant marketing and operations and service and tech tips, stay tuned to us here at runningrestaurants.com. In the meantime, please hit that like button, subscribe button, and follow us, review us wherever you watch or listen to this. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Christine.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.